back again at CES 24, and you can see behind me the exhibition, Consumer Electronics Show. It is absolutely amazing. We have a lot to talk about. We've been talking about a lot all week, and I'm bringing you my FODs, Friends of David. And right now, I'm bringing you not an FOD, I'm bringing you my soul sister, my true, almost relation, not blood, but as close as it gets, Shelley Zalis, the CEO and founder of the FQ, the Female Quotient. And we're going to talk about what that means and why that's important and why a female presence, particular at CES, is so critical. But first, you're going to meet Shelley. Hi, Shelley.
So excited about this. I mean, this will be the favorite one too, I hope so.
Oh, totally. So before we talk about CES, we can talk about Shelley. What people don't know about you, or some people do, I do, is Ipsos. And we're going to get to the FQ in a second, but before FQ, you were running a global information, data, public opinion company, one of the most famous in the world, called Ipsos.
Well, I mean, there's Harris too, so I got to say, Harris, Ipsos.
I know, but
now
Harris is ours.
We have to give it to Harris.
Okay, I got it. We own Harris. Stagwell, by the way, Stagwell Gold.
Shout out to Harris.
That is a Harris company, and we do love it. But we're talking about Ipsos.
Yeah, no. So I am. If you've ever taken those shitty surveys on the internet, sorry, not sorry, but I'm the mother of that invention. And so that company was called OTX, Online Testing Exchange. I sold that company to Ipsos, and so I was running global innovation in 83 countries, and I was the only female CEO, top 25, my whole career, and I was an only and lonely. And while I was at Ipsos, once again, I was one of two women on a public board of 25 and a French company. And so it was a very interesting
French companies
concept.
are notoriously not women friendly.
Boys clubs, so
totally.
Let's just say what it is. But it was a really amazing experience because I did get to see the world in a whole new perspective. When I had OTX, I had 250 employees operating in 6 cities. One was London, so it was a little global. When I sold my company, I sold it to a company of 16,000 employees operating in 83 countries. So I did get to experience the world and what it was like, and it was quite remarkable. Ipsos is a remarkable research company and quite global.
And so there you were, a woman executive, not just a woman executive, a woman CEO. And I remember when I first met you, that was the thing that was burning in you. It was like a fire, that you were lonely. And it wasn't just that you were lonely, it was that other women could only see a Shelley, or they could only see one or two others across all industries, and that really bothered you.
Well, it was interesting because when I sold my company, I was, a very well-known CEO in the research world, especially coming into Ipsos as the only female CEO in market research, and I brought my company to Ipsos, sitting at this global public company, and I remember having my 250 employees and sitting at this company where they were taking my employees and moving them around like chess pieces and talking about them as if they were just not even people with personalities, but just moving them around of this goes here and this goes here and this goes here and this goes here. And I remember tears coming down my eyes at the table. And I was pulled aside by the HR person and they said, this is, there's no room for emotion in the boardroom. And I thought to myself, I'm either gonna just let it be,
right,
or I'm gonna do what I did, which was the next week I happened to be giving quite a large public speech in front of thousands. And my speech was entitled, "Bring Emotion to the Boardroom, period." Exclamation point, a very David Sable presentation. And, it was once again when I realized, a heartbeat moment. I always call those not the cognitive, the head, but the heart. I'm going to be who I am, which is the chief troublemaker, breaking all the rules once again and creating my own. That I have to own my own narrative. Even at a public company, I'm going to be me. They bought me for who I was, which was breaking all the rules, and I did quite well. They bought my company for a lot of money. I had to own my narrative. And that was that. I was going to be a human CEO, even in a public company. And that's how I led even at Ipsos.
Well, let's just talk about the evolution of the FQ because I think the evolution is so fascinating. So when you originally started it, and I was there, it was more of a support system, and you were very focused on giving particularly younger women support so that they felt good. So when they came to a CES, when they came to a Cannes festival in the advertising industry, they went to it, wherever it was, doesn't make a difference, that they would feel good, that they would have a place to go, a place to be a woman, a place to get to fix their face, to get some better tips or whatever it was. It doesn't make a difference. You used to have clothing for people. I mean, I remember what you went through, but then it all changed, and it didn't just be about the support in the moment. It became about being globally supportive from the bottom up, the power of women.
Yeah. Well, I realized I stayed at Ipsos 5 years contractually, and while I was at Ipsos, I wanted to bring research into technology, and it actually started here at CES, and I was tired of being alone at big industry conferences that were predominantly male dominated. And I heard that CES had 150,000 attendees and less than 3% were women. And so I thought, what am I going to do about that? And so I invited 5 girlfriends. I said, would you walk the floor at CES with me? And I said, and if you know other women, please invite them. And so 24 hours later, 50 women showed up at the Consumer Electronics Show. And 2 remarkable things happened. One, it was a power of the pack moment. A woman alone has power. Collectively, we have impact. And we walked this floor, and you can see what even today, predominantly men. And it was this whoosh moment for me. It was like, all of a sudden, I'm used to being invisible in an ocean of men, and I'm okay with that because I can handle it. But all of a sudden, every single guy's head turned. Like, where the hell did all you women come from? It was just, wow.
And by the way, 2 days ago, how many women did you have on the tour with you?
Over 300-400. I mean, it was.
I saw it. It was unbelievable. 300-400 women were following her around. So that first year, 50 that she kind of came because they were her buddies, close to 500 women followed her around the hall. And I have to tell you, you had to see people's faces as they walked by. It was quite astounding.
It was astounding. And the second was I was surrounded by women just like me, talked about work-life balance and imposter syndrome. And we had power of the purse. Like, we were doing deals with one another. Something that has never, I mean, I have shivers just today talking about it. Something that in my career I never had. I'm 61 years old. I never had women supporting me. I never had, there was such a scarcity of jobs at the top for women. We would compete with each other. So to have women collaborating and supporting one another was unusual. And so all of a sudden what happened was I created something called the Girls Lounge. If there's a boys club, now there was a girls lounge. The opposite of boys girl, the opposite of club is lounge. And I thought if I could connect women in technology, what about women in marketing, media, advertising, research, cybersecurity, finance, space? And lo and behold, the Girls Lounge was born. And it was just this
iteration number 1. That was your first piece, and then
that's how it started.
Exactly.
And it was a safe space that women could connect and actually own their femininity, to bring emotion to the boardroom, to bring passion, compassion, empathy, and not be afraid to let their hair down and get their hair done and wear makeup and not dress like a man and act like a man and pretend that we didn't like those things. But when we all do it, it's okay. When one does it, you shy away. And also, it wasn't where the power was. The men weren't there. And then once 3 million women started supporting one another across every industry, I evolved from Girls Lounge to Equality Lounge, the place for conscious leaders, where we all came together to change the equation and close the gap. And today, we're in every single equation, and we've moved beyond experiences to also media and to, of course, the advisory business too.
Right, and not only did the women come to the lounge, I think this is really critical. So wherever you are, whether it's Davos, whether it's Cannes, whether it's here, the events that you put on, the speakers that you have, we're not just women, by the way, because I've spoken many times. it's the complete um, from the emotional side to the cognitive side to the intellectual side, everything that you put together is something that has created FOMO amongst the male audiences as well.
Oh, well, and we have, listen, gender equality is not a female issue, it's a social and economic issue. And we are making equality sexy. It's like something that is now for conscious leaders. And, going to Davos, when we got invited to Davos 9 years ago, the World Economic Forum, the place for world leaders, and every space of ours is unbadged so that everyone is welcome. It democratizes the system where it's not for the elite and the exclusive and the senior. Anyone can come. And, we have such inclusivity in our space, and everyone feels warm, welcome, cozy, and senior leaders welcome, junior people. Junior people get to talk to
Anybody.
There's no green room, so that speakers aren't just the speakers. I mean, it really is this cozy, warm, and welcoming space with chandeliers and food and wine, and I mean, it's a beautiful space designed inclusively for everyone. It's
And you are going from here to Davos.
Tomorrow. I got to change my luggage and leave to go to the snow. But I mean, it's when we got invited to Davos as the girls' lounge, which was pretty crazy, and I called it the place for the 17%.
I was there.
Because only 17% of, women had badges at Davos. The invitation was, we want you to come, but you might not feel welcome. That was our invitation. And, your head cognitively, intellectually says, who wants to go to a place you're not going to feel welcome? Your heart, ba-boom, 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 says you got to go. And I had no sponsor. I went to a big company. I said, would you sponsor me? And they said, we will if you change the name. I said, I'm not changing the name. They didn't like Girls Lounge. It wasn't powerful enough. And it took Jamie Dimon coming saying, I love this space. This is the best, most, he says, you're brave. You're courageous. I want to speak here. When Jamie came to speak there, it changed the game for us, literally. And we are trending top 5 at the World Economic Forum. They trend they trend 2 and 3, and we trend top 5. And today we are a 2-story glass house there where it's standing room only, best content, best connections, best networking. And we have the largest global audience of women in the workplace. So we're a media buy now for women. If you want to buy women in business, we're a media buy. So
let's talk about technology. Let's talk about CES. Let's talk about what we're doing here. So just technology and women. So let's first just start with the industry, and then we'll move on. Industry, we know it's a problem. Silicon Valley is not famous for its inclusivity. We also know it's also pretty famous for its bad behavior. Where are we? Where are we today?
The more women that get into technology, the safer it gets, because it truly is, representation matters. And that's why I always say you got to hire 3 for every 1, but at every level, so that we create the safety in numbers, which also helps. And when you look at a space like the Equality Lounge, it was designed by women for everyone. Men put the toilet seat down. I mean, it is a place of respect. So it is possible. And, in our lounge for Davos, the sign says, equality is possible if you want it. Everything is priority and choice. And, at the World Economic Forum, they said that it'll take 131 years to close the gender gap. 131 years. Why?
Right.
Like why? Where will you be in 131 years? Where will your children be? Where will your grandchildren be? Where will your great grandchildren be? I mean, so that is the silliest thing. And, we reframed it just to get people to realize how ridiculous that number is. I don't even know where that number comes from and how they measure that. But we reframed the number by saying we created the internet in 25 years. Look how we created AI, ChatGPT or BARD, in no time at all. we put men on the moon in 10 years. We created a vaccine in 1. I mean, that's how ridiculous this number is. Gender equality is a mindset gap. It's not even a behavioral gap. The CEOs, world leaders sit around the table at the World Economic Forum talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, climate, hunger, poverty, sustainability. Those, you need everyone in the world to work together to close those, and those will take 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. The only development goal that a CEO can achieve by themselves is to close
gender equality.
The gender gap in their workplace.
Absolutely.
The only one. And so this year, that is our sign that they can do it if they want it.
Right. It's on us. Right. There's no question. It's on us. It's not on anybody else.
It is the simplest thing to do, including the behavior and the culture inside their companies. If you want women in tech, then fix your workplace. Culture is something that you can fix. Pay gap you can close with a 0 gap forward. Care you can close if you don't wait for government to do your heavy lifting, because we know that the best leaders are caregivers. Fix it. Leadership gap you can
Right,
fix.
and all the research that you've done shows that women on boards, women in the workplace, absolutely makes culture better, makes decision-making better.
We
I've
need
seen
men
all
and
your
women.
research.
Well, yeah, we've seen all the research. We know this. So if you understand that, then fix it. These are all fixable solutions. They're all easy and they're not that hard to do. The workforce, the procurement gap, the leadership gap, the care gap, all of the gaps that revolve around gender equity are fixable, including the AI bias. We know there's bias in AI. We wrote the algorithm for equality because we know that representation matters. And when you look at the New York Times where they call that only men in AI, we say, oh, it's unconscious bias. If you use the word unconscious, you're conscious.
Of course.
And once you're conscious, you have a choice. Do something or don't.
Right. Somebody pointed out last night, though, I was talking to some of the big AI developers who said what people don't always understand. So, for example, somebody had asked a question last night at a forum I was in. They said, well, if we ask a biblical question, it always comes back in the mail. So the developer said, well, obviously it does because the Bible is written that way. However, the algorithm in the AI should be written so that if something is all male, you should have a choice as to how it's read, either to make it neutral, or if I would want it to be male or female, I should have the right to have that done. But it's not in there. So anything that we put in, which is of course obviously the problem of AI, is whatever you feed it is what you get back.
Right. Junk in, junk out.
Yep.
Ego. And so the algorithm for equality is ensuring that we have AI for an equitable world or an equitable future or whatever you want to assume. But if we don't have representation in the equation, you're not going to have.
It's never going to happen. So let's talk about products. What do you feel? Is there anything that you can tell us about the products on the floor? Anything you've seen this year that you think is particularly good, particularly not good, has a bias, doesn't have a bias, is fighting the bias?
Listen, everything will have a bias if it's not designed inclusively. And just some basic examples that everyone can relate to, and anything technologically developed. We know facial coding has not been done properly with lack of representation with color, that we're now fixing. Or, health equity, we know is going to be missing if we don't have that represented. We're working on something really exciting right now that I'm pretty excited about. Right now for Davos, we're going to have some demos for democratization of education. And we're using AI to code textbooks. Women in underrepresented parts of the world can't afford textbooks. So how will they ever get great jobs if they can't learn from books? So we're starting in the healthcare profession, and we're teaching women how to become nurses, and we're coding healthcare books for nursing. And we're starting in villages in Africa and in India and in either Pakistan or Afghanistan. with big organizations like United Way, and we're working with the Commonwealth. So we're going to work with the Commonwealth for India, United Way for Africa, and another organization for either Afghanistan or Pakistan with a demo with 30 women in each of those regions. And if it works, then those organizations can roll
We'll take it out, right?
Like, that's the kind of stuff that democratizes the system. That's where AI for good, when we say that, or AI for equity, is going to roll out the world in like a beautiful way.
And that beats generative AI creating fake avatars that sell advertising.
So I don't know what's on the floor, but this to me is what's going to change the world.
I think that's beautiful. Did you see anything in particular that stuck out? If you forget specifically gender or anything, just was there anything that stood out? Any particular product development, something that just call out to our?
I think the automotive stuff is going to be really, we saw a lot of great stuff in automotive. Everything is going to be powered by AI in amazing ways. And, for me, as long as there's something with women that have, especially like in the EV space, which I'm pretty excited about. I want to see lighting on EV charging stations, because that's a big issue. Women are not buying EV charging, cars because of charging. We get very nervous about where it's gonna
where you end up. Yeah, absolutely.
So I just think about that, the practicality perspective. So I just want to see more women in tech in general, so that we think about the things that men don't think about.
So that's really interesting. I wonder how many of you thought about that. So we all think about whether you have a Tesla or whatever, it doesn't really make a difference, but you all worry about how the range, how long can you drive, how far can you go. But I'd never thought about this before. But women are worried because you don't want to get stuck in the middle of the night someplace.
Yeah, but also,
think about that. Think about how that focus changes your view of that technology.
Lighting, it's dark. We need lights on it. Like, that is another thing that concerns us. Like, I'm very concerned about that when I'm going to be stuck somewhere at night, it's dark. I want a light on there. I want it to be lit up. Or even placement of them. If you're back in office, the EVs need to be right front and center with lights. I'm not going to go somewhere where it's dark.
Right in the back
and
where they stuck a charging station, right?
All these things concern me. I think about that all the time.
Amazing. So what's next? When are you running for president?
When we run together.
No, I'm going to be the campaign manager. When are you running? What's next? What's next for the FQ?
We have grown so much. It's been so incredibly exciting, and we are expanding. We've expanded so much from our experiences to now we're in the media business, and we're a media buy. If you want to buy women in business, we're a media buy now. So that's pretty exciting for us. So our content is really pretty remarkable. And we launched a huge initiative called the Flipping Point, which is basically the tipping point meets moonshot mindset, getting CEOs to realize that closing the gender gap in their workplace is legacy for them.
It's going to turn their company around.
It's going to turn their company around, but more importantly, be what they stand for, hopefully, and represent. So that's really exciting for us. And when you do the work we do with women in over 100 countries, for me, legacy is also helping women in underrepresented parts of the world, closing the workforce gap and the procurement gap. I was helping female founders until I had this epiphany that where the real win is and where we can help with economic growth and feeding families is less than 5% of procurement goes to female founders. And so I thought, well, that is so odd. Less than 5%. Trillions of dollars is spent in supply chain. That's like the world we play in, Fortune 500. And I thought, well, why? Is there just lack of supply? Is it lack of talent? No. What is the issue? Legacy. Boys club, golf course, deals. Well, that is a bad excuse for me. Unacceptable. So I'm on that one like there's no tomorrow. So so focused on that.
I love it. So think about all the things that you've heard. You've heard about technology. You've heard about women being underrepresented in the workplace, particularly in technology. You've heard about how to think about technology like AI and its inherent bias, but the inherent bias, at the end of the day, guys, it's software. So that's a fairly easy inherent bias to fix and why that needs to happen. You've heard about bias, unconscious or otherwise, in product like an EV. Where does the charging station go? What happens at night? Are there lights around? These are all important and critical questions. So I think the most important thing you've heard is that it's not just about women executives. It's not just about the people that we know who happen to be in big jobs and are doing very, very well, or who are working in companies like us, whether they're young or in the middle, or even if they get to the top. But it's about women all over the world. And the work that you're doing in India, in Africa, and other developing countries is absolutely astounding. And in my view, that's absolutely game changing. So good luck in Davos. I can't wait to hear. I'll be talking to you from Davos as we always do, so I can hear how you do. I'll see you when you get back. And once again, this is David Sable of Stagwell Global, coming to you from CES 24, speaking with the amazing and spectacular Shelley Zalis, the founder and CEO of the FQ, from the floor at CES. Remember, all it takes to change the world is for you to think. And I think that's what Shelley's message is. So, until next time.